If you're new to our channel, we'd love to have you join our little community. Just hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. We promise it will be worth your while.
Andrea smiled sweetly and gave me a hug. Please call me Andy, everyone does. And I'm going to call you Mum. This is Andy's dad, Tom, Dot introduced. Hello, Tom, I said, offering a firm, somewhat manly handshake. He looked momentarily surprised. Hi, Erica, replied Tom. We've been looking forward to meeting you. And this is Claire, said Dot, gesturing to Andrea's mother. Hello, Claire. I can see where Andrea gets her good looks from. It was a bit of a cliché, but in this case, I truly meant it. I stepped forward and gave her a light kiss on both cheeks. And finally, this fine specimen of manhood is Simon, said Dot, finishing the introductions. Welcome, all of you, I said, feeling genuinely happy. Why don't we sit down for lunch and we can all get to know each other better? Everything's ready. I'll just bring out the dishes and you can help yourselves. I've made lamb, but I have alternatives if you prefer. We're not fussy eaters. Well, almost not, Claire said with a smile. But you've been very thoughtful. Thank you. This was off to a good start, I thought. Dot started the conversation. Dad, what I haven't told you is my connection to this family, she said, waving her hand towards the four of them. Before you say anything, Dot, I need to tell your dad something, Tom interjected. Erica, we knew your ex-wife, Deborah. We are ashamed to admit that as a family, we were members of the same church. I looked surprised, but before I could speak, Claire spoke up. The elders told us that you were a danger to Dot, a gay pervert and a PDF file. They quoted scripture and your wife corroborated their claims. We believed them. There was no reason not to at the time. Tom continued Claire's explanation. We agreed to the elders' directive. They called it a commandment from God, that Dot should be betrothed to our son on her 14th birthday. Simon was the same age. We were happy for them both, believing that their place in our spiritual community was assured. They were to be married on Dot's 16th birthday. We, of course, got to know Dot better as she spent more time with us and Simon. We rarely saw your wife, and then only at church gatherings. With Simon's support, Dot was spending more time with me, Andrea said, taking up the narrative. We were at school together and we were falling in love. With the betrothal looming, we could pretend to be future sisters-in-law. Simon often came with us when we went out. The three of us got on very well. That's right, Simon confirmed. I'm fond of Dot, but I don't love her romantically. I'm very close to my sister, so it was only natural for me to support both of them. Claire and I suspected nothing of our children's true feelings, said Tom. The time for the marriage was approaching when they requested a family meeting with Dot to discuss their future. Of course, we thought they wanted to talk about wedding plans. Andy dropped a bombshell, Claire continued, and we were shocked. We argued in favor of the elders' decision, and then Dot spoke up. She said she loved both Andrea and Simon, but that it was Andrea she wanted to spend her life with. Then I told them about you, Dad, and why you left, Dot said, her voice catching slightly. I told them that you had been a kind and loving father, and that I had no idea where the accusations came from. I told them I didn't trust my mother or the elders. As the wedding day got closer, I decided to run away from home. I may have been young, but I knew what I was doing. Of course, I told Andrea and Simon my plan, Dot explained. Andrea then confided in her parents about my intention. By that point, they had called off the wedding, but were upset that I hadn't been told. They were worried about me, and a few days later insisted I come and stay with them if I left home. I refused at first, thinking it might be a trick, but I knew they were sincere, and they told me they were no longer involved with the church. In the end, I agreed, so I didn't end up homeless or on the streets. I need to tell you all something that will explain why I look and dress like this, I interrupted, taking a deep breath. I have always had a desire to cross-dress. As a teenager, I had a very good friend, and I used to dress in her clothes. Dot looked at me knowingly. I never dressed again after university. Before I proposed to Dot's mother, I told her about my early experiences with cross-dressing. I couldn't keep secrets from her. She consulted the church elders and agreed to marry me on the condition that I never dressed as a woman or spoke about it again. I only started dressing again after she threw me out. I thought if I was being punished, I might as well give in to my desires. Later, when I became even more depressed after the divorce and the loss of my business, I decided to take hormones to further my transition. Tom cleared his throat, regaining our attention. Erica, I don't know if you're aware of the circumstances surrounding the loss of your business. It was well known within the church that the elders saw your wife's share of the company as a way to generate funds to support their lifestyle. Claire and I were sadly blind to what was truly happening. The elders enjoyed a rather lavish existence, claiming it was their divine right, as if they were medieval bishops. But the church was in financial difficulty, and instead of cutting back, they pressured your wife into donating her share of your business to them. They wanted complete control. I recently read in the paper that the church had taken over my old company and had run it into the ground, I said, recalling the article. Up until then, I thought my ex-wife still owned it. Yes, that's right, Tom confirmed. After your divorce, her share went directly to the elders, who used it as collateral to buy out your remaining stake. When Dot left home, your ex also donated the house to the church. I had no idea. I left the house to her to provide a home for Dot. Where is Deborah living now? I asked, concerned despite everything. She moved into a small room at the back of the church hall. Claire replied. She had lost her job because she was spending so much time at church. She cleaned and took care of the hall, preparing it for meetings, in exchange for her room and board. She survived on donations from members. The elders called it the congregation's sacred duty to provide for her. She's a shadow of her former self, but believes her current state is God's punishment for marrying a pervert and bringing another one, you, Dot, into the world. Of course we didn't know your story then, said Tom, holding Claire's hand. But now we believe the breakup of your marriage was orchestrated to seize control of your business. But with its collapse, the church has gone bankrupt and closed its doors. The elders have been arrested and are awaiting trial for financial mismanagement, fraud, and modern-day slavery. What happened to Dot's mother, my ex-wife? I asked. We don't know, Dad, answered Dot. After seeing you last week, I've been trying to find her. Neither the police, who are investigating her case, she's considered a victim, nor social services know her whereabouts. I wanted to let her know I was getting married. We sat in silence for a while, processing everything that had been revealed. Then Simon spoke up. I have something to tell you all, and now seems like a good time. When I went out with Andy and Dot, I sometimes dressed in Andy's clothes. Sorry, Mum. Sorry, Dad. We've always known love, said Claire, smiling at her son. It's partly what brought us to our senses. When Dot told us she was going to leave home, after much discussion, we decided to leave the church too, and we offered her a place to stay. You have a wonderful daughter, Erica, and we love her very much. Dot and Andy want a place of their own now, and we gave them our blessing on the condition that they get married. Not that we could have stopped them, of course. I'm glad Simon's crossdressing is out in the open. Dot and I want him to be a bridesmaid, and now he can be himself, said Andrea, smiling at Simon. They all laughed. Simon blushed, a mixture of embarrassment and delight. I've discovered a wonderful dress shop and dressmakers in the high street, I announced. I insist on taking you all there, except Tom, of course. We have 2 wedding dresses, a bridesmaid's dress, and 2 mother-of-the-bride outfits to order. My treat. From that day forward, I was a new woman. I took pride in my appearance and re-entered society, socializing with my reunited daughter, Andrea, and her family. Tom and Claire even helped me reconnect with some of my old friends who had also distanced themselves from the church. They were upset to learn they had abandoned me based on the lies of the elders and Deborah. Simon, now identifying as Simone, made new connections through Andrea with other crossdressers and trans women from the local LGBTQ+ community. Over the months, she began to look up to me as a mentor and started calling me Auntie Erica, which I found incredibly touching. We became close, like aunt and niece, and I grew very fond of her. I was thrilled to treat Simone to a bridal lingerie and corset set to wear under her bridesmaid's dress so she could feel extra special on the day. The day. Ah, there's the doorbell. It must be the car. The ceremony is being held at a beautiful country house not far away. There aren't many guests. It's just Dot and me representing our side of the family, as I had lost contact with most of my relatives and former friends who had sided with Deborah and the church. Who wants to stand by a pervert, after all? I had also, unfortunately, lost touch with many of my older friends. Andrea's family kept their invitations limited to close family and friends, as they didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. A wedding with 2 brides and 2 crossdressers could be too much for some people to handle. I arrived at the venue and was greeted by Tom, looking dapper in a morning suit. I couldn't resist teasing him about not wearing a dress like the rest of us. We had offered in jest, but he had politely declined. "Hi, Eric," said Tom, addressing me by my male name with a knowing smile, as our first task was to escort our daughters down the aisle. I was the father of the bride, after all. The brides arrived soon after, separately, of course. Simone accompanied Dot, and Claire walked with her daughter. The brides wore identical, stunning off-the-shoulder taffeta dresses with fitted bodices and full skirts, complete with veils and trains. Simone wore a similar style dress, but in a beautiful rose pink without a veil or train. All 3 were in sky-high heels. What a sight. Their smiles were radiant. The brides were breathtaking, but the real surprise was Simone. She made a gorgeous bridesmaid, carrying herself with grace and elegance, gliding on those heels as if she had been born in them. Perhaps it was the bridal lingerie and corset I had treated her to. The 3 of them were wearing matching bracelets, gifts from Tom and Claire. Later, as Simone posed between her sister and new sister-in-law, arm in arm, pink between white, it was Simone who stole the show. Not that she was prettier than Dot or Andrea, she wasn't. But there was a special glow about her, a confidence that radiated outward. After the ceremony, having signed the marriage register as Dot's father, I took a moment to look around at the other guests. I noticed 2 other women chatting animatedly, presumably about their shared experiences. One was around Dot's age and the other was closer to mine. The younger woman wore a white and yellow floral sleeveless dress that fell to mid-knee. The dress hugged her slim, boyish figure, subtly revealing the curves of her small breasts. Favoring delicate breasts suited her. She knew how to accentuate her assets. She paired the dress with a white fascinator and strappy white sandals with slim 4-inch heels. The older woman had opted for a matching navy blue bolero jacket and dress with white piping, complemented by a wide-brimmed white hat with a navy ribbon. Her court shoes, with a more sensible 2-inch heel, suited her classic and mature look. She had a matching handbag on her arm and presented as an elegant, mature woman, quite convincingly so. I had to go over and introduce myself. "Hello, I'm Erica. I'm also Eric, Dorothy's father. I wanted to come and say hello. I didn't realize it at first, but you both are incredibly convincing. But I do have a keen eye, you see." "Hi, Erica," the older woman replied warmly. "I'm Rose. I'm here with my wife. We are old friends of Andrea's parents. When we heard that Dot's father would be here as one of the mothers of the bride and that Simon would be a bridesmaid, my wife encouraged me to dress up as well. I normally only do it at home, and we occasionally go for walks together. But this is like a dream come true, an opportunity to dress up and enjoy a social occasion." Another woman joined us, and Rose introduced her. "This is my wife, June." "Hello, I'm Erica. It's so lovely to meet you both, and I'm delighted you brought Rose with you," I said sincerely. "It's a pleasure to meet you too. I think it's wonderful that you're here to support Dot, both as her father and as a mother. And I'm proud to be here with my Rose," June replied, beaming. The younger woman then gently interjected. "I feel like I'm being left out. I'm Sharon. I'm here with my boyfriend, Luke. We're friends of the brides. We think it's marvelous how supportive everyone is here, so much so that we've decided to get married too." Looking closer, I noticed that her shoulder-length hair was her own, and her eyebrows were neatly shaped. We all offered our congratulations at once, and as we were laughing, I happened to glance across the room and noticed a vaguely familiar middle-aged woman standing there grinning at me. As I looked more closely, my heart leaped. It was Charlotte. She may have been older, but I would recognize her anywhere. We rushed towards each other and hugged tightly. I looked up and saw Dot and Andy watching us with broad smiles. "Surprise!" exclaimed Charlotte, her eyes filled with tears. "I've been looking forward to this ever since Dot told me she had found you and that you were coming to the wedding." "Oh, Charlie, how—" I managed, trying to encompass a multitude of questions in a single word. "I'm a lesbian, silly. And I've known Dot socially for I'm a lesbian, silly. And I've known Dot socially for some time now," Charlotte replied. I had never suspected that Charlotte was a lesbian. She was simply my dearest childhood friend, and our relationship had always been innocent. "I always regretted losing touch. You were a very special friend," she continued. "And don't you look amazing? I have a lot to answer for. Anyway, I met and fell in love with a fellow student at university. But over time, she became jealous of my friendships and increasingly controlling. I ended up losing contact with all my old friends, but you were always on my mind. Eventually, I came back home for a visit, hoping to reconnect with people. While I was away from my partner, I realized I didn't love her anymore, and maybe I never truly had. I didn't go back. By then, I had heard you were married to a member of that church group who were so hostile to alternative lifestyles. I was surprised and never got around to contacting you, worried that I might cause you problems," she explained. "I had known Dot for a while before I connected the dots and realized she was your daughter." She laughed. "I said dots." "I've often wondered what happened to you," I said, relieved and happy to see her again. "But what about now?" "I live alone and there's no one special in my life at the moment. I'm a librarian with the county council," she replied. "Dot has told me all about you, and it seems you could do with having your old childhood friend back. I think it's going to be even more fun than before, Erica." "I would love that. These past 6 months have been incredible. I was a depressed man living alone as a woman, and now I have my daughter back. A wonderful daughter-in-law. Her family has become like my own, and now I have my best friend back in my life." "You bet. I may be a lesbian, but having a girlfriend with a little something extra will be interesting." Charlotte smirked, and we both laughed. Epilogue. Charlotte retired from her job and moved in with me. Perhaps it should have always been this way, but then I would never have had Dot. I lost a quarter of a century of my life, but I was fortunate enough to be financially secure. My life is now fully as a woman, enjoying the fruits of my labor and living a full and happy life with Charlotte by my side. I have many new friends. Charlotte and I regularly meet up with Rose, who had fully embraced her identity, June, Tom, and Claire. And of course, there's my beloved daughter-in-law, Andrea, and my niece, Simone. We created a chosen family, bound by love and acceptance, and those lost years faded into a distant memory, overshadowed by the joy and love that filled our present. Life had thrown us curveballs, but we had found our way back to each other, stronger and more authentic than ever before.